right, so let's start with understanding the marketing plan. That's basically what we want to be. And I'll use the outline that's provided in the class shell as well. So we'll have an outline already provided, and we'll go through each of the steps now so you have a good understanding, okay? All right, the first part of the plan, and I'm going to put it all up here on the board so you have a list and you can take a picture of your list. The first part of the board is, this is the executive summary here, right? And we're going to bullet point this here in a second. But the executive summary should be about 1 or 2 pages, no more than 2. And it's going to include every section in the plan. And it's an executive summary because it really summarizes the entire plan. So you'll have an explanation of the marketing mix there, an explanation of what you expect to do, your budget, your sales forecast, your opportunities, even possibly how you differentiate yourself from the competition should be in there too. So that's sort of going to happen all in that executive summary. We'll come back to that and we'll bullet point that here in a second. Okay, so the most important part, we're going to go through the most important parts of the plan. One would be your product description over here. So let's call that part 2 for now, section 2, your product description. In your product description, you really want to describe how your product is different than everyone else. What makes your product so special and unique than everyone else? So I would put here what we call the USP. You guys remember what the USP is? That's your unique selling proposition. So what makes you so different? Your unique selling proposition goes here. And then under here too, I would put the why your consumers will buy your product versus someone else, and what makes you different over here as well. What makes you different? Make sense? So that's sort of the product description. You can also talk about some of the 4 Ps in this section if you want to cover it, but very top line, not too exact. So if you do that, your product description, what makes you so special, why consumers would buy, that's sort of in that product section number 2 there, all right? Product section number 3 will be your target market.
How long is the part 2? How many pages more?
Okay, good question. So remember when we talk about pages, there's no exact number, but you shouldn't be more than 1.5 pages to 2 pages max on that section. I would say that you could probably sum that up in 1 page, a couple of paragraphs, right? Remember, we're not counting pages. So if you could do it in 1 page and you're happy with the way you're describing your product and you're really defining your unique selling proposition and you're explaining why your product exists, and also over here you should also say what problem you solve, right? So remember that marketing a product, creating a product or service, you have to find the need and fill it, right? That's the basic fundamental theory of marketing. So find the need and fill it. So what need are you filling? What problem are you solving? That's going to be key in that. Okay, so that should go in here as well. Okay, so let's cover the target market. The target market now is the who. Remember that? Who is going to buy my product or service? So here you should really identify who your target consumer is, what their age is, what their household income, are they male or female? You know, now we call that a persona or profile, demographic. All that goes in here. That's really what you want to put in here, the personas and the demographics. The who. What's the other part of the target market you need to have? The other part of the target market you need to have would be the where. where are all the people you're trying to go after, right? Make sense? So where are they all? So in this case, if it's a geography, if you're opening up a store in Miami, then where do they live around the Miami area? What is that radius? Is it 25 miles from center point? Is it 100 miles from center point? You have to think about how far will someone drive to get to my business if you open up a store. Where are they? So who are they and where are they? That's basically the geography here, okay? So if you have an online opportunity, you're trying to decide your target market, the first thing you want to do is identify the personas, their demographics, right? In this case, their age, their household income, if you can get that, their likes, their dislikes, you're sort of building that up. And then where are they? Where are they? Are they in New York? Are they in California? Are they in Brazil? Internationally, where could they be? Because they could be all over the world if you're online, right? So you have to sort of define that where they are. Now, if you're a storefront, if you're operating a storefront and you're putting the store in Miami, you have to think about how far will people come, how far will people drive to come to the store. That's going to be key too. So how far will they drive to come into the store? Will it be 25 miles, 50 miles? Normally, people drive no more than 50 miles to go to any store, okay? So you have to think about that. So,
what would be family life cycle?
all right, family life cycle is the cycle of life. So basically you have a family life cycle is the cycles that people go through in life. You're a young adult, you go to college, and then from college you might get married, and then from getting married you might be married with kids, and then after you're married with kids you might be divorced with kids, right? Or you might be married with kids that are older, right? The life stages that you have, and then after you have the marriage with kids that are older and they go off to college, then you become an empty nester. Well, that's right. So now you're a couple living without kids, and then somebody dies, or you get a divorce at that stage of life too. So now you're a single elderly person or older person, I should say, because eventually that's the life cycle. And then wherever you start, there's an end, right? Because everything has a life span. So that's the cycle. There might be a couple small ones in between. Then you have to add in the professional life cycle as well. So those are stages of life that as a marketer you have to understand, because if you have a product, let's say you have a vacation product, and it's an expensive vacation product, more than likely the younger demographic who's going to college is not going to be able to afford that expensive vacation, right? So you have to market that to an older population, someone who's older that would get that. Make sense? So that's sort of the life cycles. That's basically how you would do that. All right, so in the target market, you're really explaining the who and the where. Also, one thing you should put in here is why is this market attractive? Meaning, what's the match? Why do you think that this target market matches your product or service so perfectly? You should explain that in this section too. What's the match here, okay? All right, any questions so far on where we are? Remember, in a marketing plan, the executive summary comes first. We're gonna come back to that here in a second. Then you write the product description. In the product description, you're making sure you have the USP, which is a unique selling proposition. What makes you so different? So I want to know why you're different than the competition, and I want to know what exactly is your product definition and what problem are you solving. Okay, that's going to be key. What problem are you solving? The next section is your target market. Your target market should have the who, and that's where you have the demographics, the profiles, the personas. Who are you going after? And then the where. Where are they? What geography do they live in? If it's a retail store, what geography do they live in? And then why are they attractive? Why is there a match? Why do you want to go after those people? What sense does it make? and how does that connect, okay? So that's sort of that section there. Okay, the next section would be, let's call this section 4, and that is the macro environment. So in the macro environment explains everything that happens outside of your business. Everything that happens outside of your business. So in this case, there's legal, right? There's the politics. There's the economy. There's the social. And then lastly, there's the technological. So basically, you want to explain in the macro environment how the world evolves and will affect your business. Perhaps the world could evolve and it doesn't affect your business at all. Very rarely does it happen, because if the laws of the land change, that affects your business, right? I'll give you a case in point. The big industry right now is the vaping industry. The vaping industry laws are changing. If you opened up a vape store and you sold flavored vape juices, now you're affected by the changes, the possible changes of the law, because now you cannot sell, flavored vapes. So that changes your business model. Maybe the politics will change, perhaps. In the United States, politics don't change the way businesses operate so often. Although the last 10 or 15 years, that has been the case, where some laws or some executive orders have been created that affect businesses. But it's more rare here in the United States than it is internationally. And then, of course, the economy. Doesn't the economy affect every business in the U.S.? If it's good economy or bad economy, some businesses actually do well in a bad economy. Some businesses don't get bothered at all, whether it's a good economy or bad economy. Others do better in a good economy than in a bad economy, right? So you have to figure that out. And then, of course, the social environment. We're experiencing in the U.S. a tremendous amount of social change right now. So how does social changes affect your business, if it does or not? How does society affect your business, if it does or not? And then lastly, technology. And when we say technology, we don't mean new computers or new ways of doing things and new internet speeds or anything like that. Yeah, that's part of it. But what we really mean in technology is the ways of conducting your business. For instance, I think we talked about the ice cream example, right? Ice cream used to be a simple thing, but now you've got the nitrogen freeze and all these different things. Technology has advanced so much that business is changed. In the next 15, 20 years, robots and AI and automated machinery will change most businesses. I mean, right now, if you walk up to a McDonald's, you can order from the kiosk, right? And not even worry about getting a server to take your order anymore. So technology is changing it. So how does technology change a business? So that's really the microenvironment. You can explain that. And the reason why you want to do that, you want to explain the microenvironment in your marketing plan, is because we make plans and life gets in the way, right? So what are those risks that are out there? What could possibly change your business model? How does that look? And what does that look like? And that would be your microenvironment. Okay, your next section, let's call it section 5. That's your micro environment, right? So remember, the difference between the macro and the micro environment. Macro is everything more or less externally that's going to affect your business, and a micro environment is tiny. A micro is small, so it affects things more intimately. Now, what do we include in our micro environment? The most important thing that we include there would be the SWOT analysis, right? So the SWOT analysis, if you remember, was your strengths, opportunities, and threats, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Thank you, I missed one. That's for SWOT, S-W-O-T. Okay, see, I got it. It's still early in the morning. I'm working on it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what's important here? Well, we know that your strengths and weaknesses are internal. They affect you intimately, right, in your company on a regular basis. Your opportunities and threats are external. So in some regards, your opportunities and threats could also, tie into the macro environment because that's external. So now that we know that, you could possibly grid it out. You can create a grid of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's one way to do it. The other way would be just to explain it a little bit. And the way I like to handle the SWOT analysis is the first thing you need to do a SWOT on is who. Who's the first company you need to do a SWOT analysis on?
Your competitor.
No, yourself, right. Competitor's number 2. You need to know yourself first, right? In Sun Tzu's The Art of War, he says, if you don't know yourself, you can never defeat the enemy, because you don't know your own strengths and weaknesses. So you can't defeat the competition. So the first thing I would do here is I would put me, meaning my company here, right? In that case. And then after I do me, and I probably want to see 1, 2, maybe 3 points in each section for me, because you really have to do an internal examination of who you are and what you do and what you believe in and what makes your business different. So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your company first. Now, the second thing we do would be what? Your competition. So in this case, I would do competitor number 1. I probably find the most likely competitor close to my business. So find the business that's most likely close to yours. It could be an exact competition. It could be, they could be selling the exact same things on the exact same street if you had a retail store, or in the exact same neighborhood. Let's put the competition there, and then let's also, for the competition, at least for your first one, you might want to also do 3 points. This way you have a good understanding of what they do. And then I always like to come back and find 2 other competitors. So I have a good understanding of 3 competitors in the marketplace. So I would have a C2 and a C3 here, right? And then in that particular case, I probably do 1 or 2 points in each one too. So if I had 1 in each, now I have a pretty good understanding of what the competitive landscape looks like. I have a good understanding of what my strengths and weaknesses are. I have a good understanding of what my main competitor strengths and weaknesses are. I have a good understanding of even what the other 2 competitor strengths and weaknesses are. And then I also have a good understanding of the opportunities and threats, not only for myself, but for my competition. Because if you look at this way, let's say I see an opportunity here for my main competitor. I see an opportunity, and that opportunity ties into one of my strengths. Now I have an opportunity for me because I have a strength in that. So now I can take advantage of that opportunity. Or I could also take advantage of a threat. If something is threatening my competition, but it doesn't threaten me, I have an advantage over them, right? So now I can possibly go in there and focus on that threat and capitalize on that opportunity, because that's what makes it special over here. So that's really what you want to do in the micro environment. All right. So you're sort of tying in from this point. You're also tying in your the product, your target, because you could look at where your geographic opportunities are, and you might be tying in your macro as well. So it's sort of all coming together. All right, so let's.
The competitor 1, 2, 3. You have to give exactly somebody. Is like.
Yes.
A company.
Yeah, you have to know exactly who you're competing against, right? Anybody here play sports? Right? If you play sports and you go into a sport competition, you have to know your competition. You have to know what they do well, what they don't do well. so you can create a strategy. And that's what this is all about, the microenvironment. That's what this is all about. It's about creating a strategy to be successful in the marketplace. That's the key thing. How do you create a strategy to be successful in the marketplace? And that microenvironment can help you succeed that way, okay? All right. Any questions on what we've done so far? Remember, the executive summary, we're coming back to that towards the end, all right? Okay, so now we have the next section. Let's call this section 6, and that's going to be price. Remember when we talked about the 4 P's, product, place, promotion, and price? Price is always the last thing that I want to mess around with as a marketer, because that's the most sensitive, right? That's the most sensitive dial. If we turn the dial left, it changes everything we do. If we turn the dial right, it changes everything we do, all the way through the value chain. It affects everything. If your price is too high, it changes everything you do. If your price is too low, it affects everything you do as well. So price is a very sensitive subject. So the first thing you want to do about price in this section is, number 1, what is your strategy? What is your pricing strategy? So basically, there's a couple of pricing strategies that you can use. Number 1, you can use what we call market skimming. Market skimming would be a strategy where you're priced a little higher than the market, and then you come down in price. You could promote it and do different things there. Then we have penetration pricing, which will be below the market, and then you can sort of raise your price up. You're penetrating the market with a lower price. So that's the first question you need to have, is what is my pricing? After you have the strategy lined out, then you need to put together over here your promotional plan in pricing. So remember that when we say promotional plan in pricing, what we mean here is your discounting. How will you discount it? What type of sales would you put on? If, let's say you sold $1, let's take this example in the pricing scenario. We did a competitive analysis, right? We know that competitor number 1 sells a similar product to us. Their product sells for $1. Now, if the competition sells a product for $1, we have a product that is very similar to them, except the quality's a little better. The quality's a little better on our product. We know that because we tested their product against ours. We did focus groups with future customers against theirs and ours, and everyone sees the quality. We know that the quality is higher than theirs. So if they're $1, and it cost us 50 cents to make it, okay? That's what our cost is, our COGS, 50 cents to make it. So we know our quality is better. We know the competition sells it for $1. We know it costs us 50 cents. What do you recommend our price be? It's a higher quality product. What do you think?
Begin with the advertise with the discount, so the people buy,
okay,
try it. So and then they know that it's better quality. So then you can later on put the actual price. Okay, good.
And so what kind of strategy is that? Is that market penetration or market skimming?
Penetration.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. So in this case, we have a promotional plan. We're going to penetrate the marketplace, even though our quality is better. So if they're selling for $1, how much are we going to sell for? 90 cents. Okay, perfect. 90 cents. So we create a plan, so we're going to sell for 90 cents for 1 year. We'll make less money, and then year 2, we're going to raise the price to $1. Because now we're going to have a good reputation. Now people understand that our quality is better, so they'll pay us the $1 for the price. So now we're equal to them, right? So maybe year 3 we could come up and raise it to $1.10, and now it would be above them. Of course, we don't know what the competition is going to do yet, because they might lower their price too to meet us. But let's not worry about the competition. Never make your pricing based on what the competition is doing, at least in the beginning, because then if they go left, you got to go left. If they go right, you have to go right. Focus in on what you need and develop your marketing plan based upon your needs, not the competition. That's the best way to do this, okay? So in your pricing, you're outlining the strategy, you're outlining the promotional plan as well, okay? And you probably want to do something like this. If you know what your COGS are, remember what COGS means? Cost of goods sold. You know what your SG&A is. What's SG&A again? That's your selling, general, administrative expenses. That's like all the expenses that go into getting the product to market. And then, of course, because we're doing a marketing plan, we should have the marketing cost there too, as well, right? So basically, you want to have this here. So you know it's 50 cents for COGS, 10 cents for SG&A, and 10 cents for marketing. So everything here costs you 70 cents. Make sense? So if we sell it for 90, our profit would be what? 20 cents, right? So that's how you would use those numbers to roll up your budget based on that example. Everybody see that? Okay, any questions so far? So we covered product description, target market, the macro, the micro, and now price. So now we have 6 strong sections in the marketing plan. Okay? All right. Now, what other piece should we cover? How about promotion? Right? Let's do promotion. So now we have promotion, and this is going to be section 7, more or less. So in promotion, we want to explain what we're doing. So in this case, what type of promotion are you going to use for your plan? Are you going to do flyers? Are you going to take out an ad in the magazine? Are you using social media? How would you get the messaging out? This is the how to your target market. How do you get the message out? So explain how you get the message out here. Okay? And then what you also need to do in this section is put together your budget for your promotional plan. So what does that look like? So let's say you decide to do social media. Let's say you decide to do flyers. Okay, social media and flyers. That's really the 2 ways you're going to get the business out. I would put together a plan so that I would do probably quarters. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. I put together a plan that explains how much you're spending in each one of these quarters. So we know that we're spending 10 cents, right, on every unit that we sell for our marketing. Everybody see that? How many units do we forecast we're going to sell? Let's estimate. So let's say we estimate we're selling 1,000 units. That's what our estimate is in our forecast, 1,000 units. So 1,000 times 10 cents would be what? So now we know that equals, because here's what we're doing. This is our numbers that we're spending. We're spending 10 cents of every dollar, right, for marketing. If our product sells for $1, that means we sell 1,000 units, we make $1,000. 10 cents of every dollar is $100. Everybody see the math there? Right? Okay. So that's $100. So now I know I have $100 to spend. So if I break that up by quarter, how much is per quarter? It's $25 a quarter. Let's do it simple. $25 per quarter. So I have $25 per quarter to spend. Do I spend more money on social media or flyers? Social media. Right, I agree. Spend more money on social media. What percentage more do I spend on social media? Let's say I spend 80% of $25 on social media and 20% on flyers. So what's 80% there. That would be what, $20, I'm guessing? $20 on social media and $5 on flyers. That makes sense, right? So I'm spending $20 here and $5 there. Everybody see the math, how we're figuring this out? So that's your promotional budget. That's how you put together your promotional budget. You explain everything like that. Okay? Make sense? Any questions so far on where we are? So far we have product description. We're identifying the USP, the why, the what, the problem that we're solving. Then we're explaining the target market, the who, the where, that's the personas, the demographics, the geography, where those people are. And then why is this an attractive match, our target market? Why is it attractive to us? Why does that make sense? In the next section, we're talking about the macro environment. That's all the legal, political, economic, social, and technological changes that could affect our business. And then in the fifth section, we're looking at the micro environment. That's the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I'm taking myself and 3 other competitors, and I'm explaining what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are for those 3 competitors. From there, I'm digging into my price. In order to get the price, I have to first know what my COGS are. I have to first know how much I want to spend on marketing. I have to estimate what my SG&A is. And I'm guessing in most cases, your marketing is going to be about 10%, your SG&A is going to be about 10%, and your COGS, that's the cost of goods sold, what you buy is going to be about 50 cents. Now, that's a very simple math illustration of how you would work this out in a marketing plan. There's a little more detail here, but for this plan, we're just doing that. So at the end of the day, if we know we need to get at least 70 cents out of this in order to pay for everything, we have to sell it for more than 70 cents, right? Everybody see that? We know that there's a competitor out there that sells it for $1. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what strategy do we want to put the product out there for? In this case, we agreed that we're going to put it out there for 90 cents maybe, be below the competition. And we're going to stay that way for a year. And then in year 2, we'll be at the same price of the competition. And then in year 3, we're going to be 10 cents higher than the competition because our quality is better, providing nothing changes, because in 3 years, a lot of things change, right? And then that's sort of how you would run out this plan. Make sense? And then we take that money, and as good marketers, we take the money and we spend it. That's what marketers do. So now we put together our promotional budget, which is here. We explain, okay, we have this product, we have this service. The message is, we have the best product in the entire world. That's our message. And the way we're going to get the message out is through social media and flyers. And every month or every quarter in this example, I'm going to spend $20 on social media and $5 on flyers. The other thing we have to explain in the promotional section is, what are the results? So yes, it's great to spend money, but now let's tell everyone what the results are going to be. So in this case, what are the results that are going to come out of this? So if I spend $25 every quarter, how much sales should I get? Well, in our example, if we say we're going to sell 1,000 units for the year, in our example over here, we should be able to get 250 units every quarter, right? Everybody see the math there? That's just simple math. If we're going to sell 1,000, we can assume we're going to sell 250 per quarter, which is 25 is what? 10% of 250. So now if we go back and look at our math, that all ties in together. See how it all ties in together? Remember, we did algebra and we did calculus, if you guys taken that, and you have to go back and check, you know, X is what, Y is what, and you have to go back and reverse the math to make sure that, check the math and do it reverse to make sure it makes sense. That's the same exact thing we have to do with our marketing plan too. It has to make financial, economic sense. So if I see in your marketing plan, if your numbers don't tie together, it's not good. I think that's the most important part of the marketing plan, is making sure your numbers tie together. You have to explain it too. Explain why you're doing all this, but at the end of the day, it has to tie together. Also, you have to be realistic. You can't say, I'm going to open up a store, and in 1 year, the store is going to be doing $1 million a year. That's almost impossible. It's very hard to get to $1 million. So you have to be realistic too, okay? You also can't say, I expect to sell 1,000 units and spend all my money on marketing. Now you can do that. I would love to see a marketing plan like that, but then there's no money you're putting in the pocket. But then understand that you'll take a loss year 1 and year 2 and year 3 possibly. So the next part of this is your budget. So your budget has to explain, at the end of the day, how much money you're making and what you expect to make. In this particular case, I will do year 1, year 2, and possibly year 3. So you want to really put together a 3-year budget on what you're trying to do. And how would I lay this out? For this particular case, you might actually want to do a grid like this. Just like you might want to do a grid for this, and you might want to do a grid for that too, the SWOT, if you want to do that as well. That's okay. You could explain the SWOT analysis in paragraphs and sentences, but a budget's always nicer to see in a grid format when it comes to how much you're spending, and a budget is always good to see in a grid format when it comes to how much you're making. So this is pretty simple, I think, if you line it out. How many units did we say we're going to sell every year? 1,000 units, right? So 1,000 units at $1. So we put here total revenue, 1,000 units at $1. Year 1, $1,000. Pretty simple, right? Everybody see how we carry that math over? The next thing we have to do here is put in our cost of goods sold. And in this case, it's going to be $500. Why? Because 50 cents of every dollar is our COGS. The next piece of this is what we call SG&A, and that's going to be $100. Why? Because 10 cents of every dollar is in here.
When we have different prices, should we focus on one price or?
Good question. So let's say we have different prices. So let's say we have a $5 item, a $3 item, and a $1 item, right? Let's assume we have that. We have 3 different products at 3 different prices. So in reality, a real tightened up marketing plan does this with 3 different price levels. Okay, so you've got to dig in a little bit. But for this example, we don't have to get that thorough, that complicated. But in a real plan, you should identify how many units at the $5 you're selling, how many units at the $3 you're selling, how many units at the 1. Because what's going to happen here is this is going to be Y, X, and Z, right? That's sort of how you're breaking that up. And then at the total, you're going to have X, Y, Z here as the total, because that's the total units. So in this case, what I suggest to simplify the plan, let's find the average. So there's 5, 3, 8, that's 9. 9 divided by 3 as an average would be $3. So $3 is your average price, right? So find your average price. And then if you have units, let's say you're going to sell 500 over here, you sell 1,000 over here, and you sell 2,000 over here. That's 2,500. Let's call it 2,400 to make it easy math. And 30. That's 3,000. That's 3,400. So 34 divided by 3, whatever that math is as an average, that's what you'd use as your average units. So you're calculating everything the same. Okay. So in this example, we're doing one price at $1, 1,000 units. And now the next section we need to have here is what? Your marketing. And your marketing was also 10 cents on $1, so that's $100. Okay, So now, this is a minus, that's a minus, that's a minus, right? Because that's coming out of our pockets at the end of the day. So $1,000 minus 500 minus 100 minus 100 equals my, let's call it my gross profit here for a second. Gross profit, and that's going to equal 5, 6, 7 minus 1,000, that's $300 in year one. Everybody see that? Okay. Now the next question you need to ask is, okay, how much business will I get in year two? Let's estimate it, because this is all an estimate. We're really just trying to calculate what numbers it looks like. So let's say we increase 20%. So if we increase 20%, that means our revenue might be 1.2. We have to add our COGS. So that means we're selling 1,200 units, right? So then we have to figure out our COGS, our SG&A, our marketing, all at the same percentages against the 1,200 units. And then we come up with our gross profit, and we do the same thing for year three. Let's say year three, we're also selling 20% more. So that's going to be 1,000, that's 120, 340, let's say, okay? And we run the math down again, and that's sort of how you would come up with your budget. So all these pieces are filled in, okay? It's all an estimate. You know, you're putting this together based upon the research that you've done, so it makes sense, right? Makes sense? That's everything. So any questions on this so far? No? Okay. So we also want to make sure in this particular case, and I'll go back to the micro environment here for a second, or even in what we're doing, the product description. You also want to talk about the place of how you're putting your product out into marketplace. So remember we talked about the 4 P's, right? We have product, which is in the product description. We have place, promotion, and price. So far in our marketing plan, we've covered promotion, we covered price, we covered product. So you have to put the distribution of channels somewhere in here, the place. So in this case, I would put place in the product description and describe how you're going to market. If you have a store, you're saying, I will have a store in Miami. It's going to be about 1,000 square feet, and I'll have 2 employees, and that's basically how you would describe your business. If you have a product and you're going to market, I would say I have a product and I plan on selling into retailers, or I plan to sell it direct online. It's going to be a service business online. You explain that here in the product description. So you're really covering that piece over here. The very last part, which will be section 9, let's call it, is sort of your plan B, or your explanation of what happens if these things go wrong. That's a very simple simple section, because hopefully if you did the marketing plan right and if you created a strong strategy, there's not a lot of things that go wrong. But what factors over here have to stay in place to make you a success, and what factors, if changed, would make you a failure? So let's say I sell ice cream. One obvious thing that would happen to keep me successful is more people like ice cream, or some magical pill is created that people that are lactate intolerant can take this pill, and then they can eat all the ice cream they ever wanted in the world, right? If that changed, then my ice cream business will be phenomenal. Or they build a high school next to my store, then my target market gets that much bigger. That'll be phenomenal. The opposite of that is we find out that ice cream helps you lose your hair faster, contributes to hair loss. Science tells us that if you eat more ice cream, your hair will fall out. And I've eaten a lot of ice cream over the years, so, right? So then people stop buying ice cream for that exact reason then. So you have to explain that here in those factors, what will change. And then lastly, we wrap it all up. in a nice little executive summary, 1 or 2 pages over here, and every one of these sections is covered in the executive summary. So we're giving a brief product description, we're giving a brief explanation of why and why our product is so good, we're giving a brief explanation of our target market, the who and where, and then we're going into macro environment. If something's going to affect my business, I'm explaining that here in the executive summary, and then I'm sliding into my competition. What does that competition look like? And then I'm looking at the price, what my pricing strategy is, how I will price my product, how much money I think I'll make, what my promotional plan will be, how much I'll spend, and then at the end of the day, by year 3, I'll be making $1 million and I'll be making $200,000 profit. And if everything goes right, I'll be successful. The only thing that could affect my plan is that ice cream shops, we find out that ice cream helps you lose your hair faster. That's sort of the executive summary. That's all these points. That's it. We're done. Pretty simple, right?
Simple but not simple.
Exactly. Simple but not simple. So it's a lot of work.
Simple but not easy.
It's simple but not. If it was easy, anybody could do it. That's why you're here. You're here to learn how to do it. That's important. I promise you this: if you do this exercise properly, which I expect and anticipate everyone to do that, this will be something you take with the rest of your life. And no matter what business you ever go into, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for somebody, this foundation will be the most important thing that you get in your education, because it's the heart. The marketing plan is the heart of any business. Okay, that's gonna be key. So trust me on that.